Good morning, afternoon, and or evening. I'm Chris, and welcome to the newest episode of Cooking with Grief, a podcast which begins with the intention of spreading knowledge through humour, but which quickly devolves into 20 minutes of genital jokes, vaguely remembered history, and poorly understood science. I am, as usual, joined by my friend and co-host, a man who probably does need an introduction. He might not have a single finger on the pulse of popular culture, but he certainly knows his Aristophanes from his Aristotle. It's the man, the myth, the cautionary wife's tale, Chris.
Hello, thank you for that slightly barbed introduction.
How are you doing?
I'm well, slightly dismayed to discover I'm a cautionary wives' tale.
Well, you know, legend didn't seem to do you justice.
I'm just dismayed to find out that I'm someone that mothers need to warn their children about.
Oh, yeah, but, you know, they more warn their children not to turn into you. Is that better?
Yeah, make sure you study hard, study at school, kids, because otherwise you'll end up as a miserable disappointment like that Chris off that podcast you probably don't listen to.
Yeah, it wasn't the most flattering introduction. I can do it again if you'd like.
No. It's just nice to know where we stand, mate.
Okay, that's good. I was thinking more cautionary wife's tale, like, you know, if you don't use baking soda to clean windows, Chris will appear outside it staring in.
Yeah, my neighbours are really getting sick of me haunting the kitchen windows going, look, it's white wine vinegar. How many times do I have to tell you?
It's not that hard to just clean the windows once in a while, Karen.
Look, soak the big dishes first before attempting to scrub them, Jill. That is your real name. What do you mean, please leave?
So yeah. Bloody Jill. What's she like? So anyway, before we begin in earnest, let's have a quick recap of the format. So we've each brought two interesting stories or facts that we found on the old interweb, and we're going to take turns sharing those nuggets with each other and with you, our dear listener. So over to you, Chris, for story number one.
Okay, so my first topic this week is all about excuses that you've used to call in sick to work. I don't know, Chris, if you've ever called in sick with either a legitimate excuse or a bad invented one.
Not for work, no. Although I did once use the excuse that I had writer's block to explain why I hadn't done my lines at school.
I don't remember that, but did you get away with it?
I did not.
No, I think that's fair enough. Although, I think if I was a teacher, I'd reward for at least trying an excuse like that. The reason I bring it up, because I read a thing this week. In 1979 in Sweden, homosexuality was still classified as an illness, right? It decriminalised homosexuality in 1944, but it still categorised it as a mental disorder. So Swedes protested that by calling in sick to work, claiming they felt gay.
Did it work?
Well, a few of them got off work. One woman even managed to claim social security on the basis of a gay disorder. It was a protest done by the RFCL, the Swedish Federation for Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual and Transgender Rights. And just phoned up and said, I'd love to come in, but, sorry, you can probably hear it, just feeling a bit gay, so probably not going to make it in. And these days, Sweden's one of the most tolerant countries in the world and happiest by all accounts. And it's
but they've just lost like a great excuse for not going into work. Just literally any time you didn't feel like going in, you'd be like, "Sorry, boss, got a case of the old gays." You're like, "Oh, I understand. It happened to me last week too." Yeah,
I wonder if there were spikes of people coming out the closet around sort of major sporting events that they might want to take time off work for. Just
oh yeah, no, I've been gay for the last week, but I think I'll be better. I'll be better next week, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've been married for 25 years. I've had 4 lovely children, but just the snooker's on, and I think I might be gay. So I'm gonna take about a week off to process that. Imagine
upheaving your entire life just to watch snooker. Not even anything good, just snooker.
Yeah, I don't know why I picked snooker. It does seem. I mean, I'm sure. Look, whatever you're interested in, if it's a hobby of yours, or if it's an interest, then watching professionals at the height of their game do it. I do not get what people get out of watching snooker.
Me neither.
I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're seeing people do stuff that you couldn't do, then that's always impressive. But when you see these suggested videos on YouTube for like 25 trick shots you won't believe happened, it's like, well, I can believe that the balls moved around improbably, but then went in a small pocket. It's not like any of them burst into fire and accidentally turned into a microwave.
That would be impressive.
Yeah, so Ronnie O'Sullivan, if you're looking for your next challenge,
turn a ball into a microwave.
And then pot it.
Just on that note, I hope you don't mind a little segue, but have you seen on YouTube there's the whole subgenre of Twitch streamers and, watching people play video games? I mean, that's literally how PewDiePie got started, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. I don't understand that genre at all. I'm not interested in esports and, professional video games. But like you were saying, like, if you were interested in something, seeing people at the peak play it, like, I fully understand that. Like, even though if it's something I'm not interested in personally, I can see why people would watch, like, the best League of Legends players or whatever. But watching, like, other people play a game which you could yourself play at a similar level be like just watching YouTube of people playing five-a-side football in the park. Meaning, like, I could go out and do that, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to watch other people do it.
See, I do get it, right? Because one is that sometimes... Well, a lot of the time, if you like, particularly if it's a group playing it, and you latch onto the personality and the conversations they have, then you start watching it for that, and the game becomes less important than just a mechanism by which you watch your favourite people talk.
But then what's the function of the game? Because PewDiePie sort of pivoted away from video game playing because people were coming for the PewDiePie rather than the game.
But I mean, if that's what he enjoys and what lets him do his thing, even if that thing is racist, misguided at times, perhaps one might argue, then it's, if you like video games, and then watching someone engage with that might be, is it entertaining? The second point I'd make about that is that when we were kids, and certainly when I was playing video games more regularly, then, like, as a child, I'd get, like, one PlayStation 1 game for my birthday, and maybe one at Christmas. And even if those games were shit, those games last you all year round, basically. Yeah. And that's fine when you're a kid, but if let's say you're a teenager and you don't have a lot of just sort of disposable income of your own, and AAA games, there's like 10 out every month, and they all cost 50, 60 quid.
Yeah, that's true.
Then you can't necessarily play all of them, even rent them. So if you can experience the full game by watching someone play it, you at least get to understand the story. Or, I don't know, with a new God of War, then if people are talking about what an incredibly good-looking game it is, then at least you can experience that. Yeah. Because maybe you don't have... Because the cost of sort of getting the latest system or a computer that can run it at the specs you want it to is sort of really high, then it's one way of engaging with that material. I think it's less like watching a sort of amateur five-a-side, because, well, I suppose if it was amateur five-a-side but they had really funny commentary on it, then you might start watching for the commentary. I don't know.
That's fair enough. I say it's something I personally don't get, but no, it's interesting to hear, the view of somebody who does get it. It's because, like you say, like, I really want to play the new God of War. At the moment, can't afford it. So instead of, like, watching other people play it, I've made, like, a conscious decision, having, like, watched the reviews, watched the trailers, to just cut it out entirely until I could afford it. So, like, it's an unspoiled experience when I finally buy it. I sort of go the complete opposite way. Well, I was saying that, I suppose when we were younger, we used to go around to each other's house and, like, we'd take turns playing the game, wouldn't we? I suppose maybe it's like that. This conversation's making me feel so old.
I know, it's making me feel old as well, because I'm after, Now, Chris, put your mind in the, put yourself into the mind of a young person who is perhaps watching on one of their smartphones, if you will. It's a sort of cellular device that shows moving images, and so I think that neatly wraps up the topic of homosexuality in Sweden in the 1870s.
Yeah, well, at least we've given people a new excuse if they don't want to go into work. Just tell everybody you're gay.
Yeah, as long as you live in 1970s Sweden.
Which is a long shot.
It's such a long shot, the ball would have to turn into a microwave halfway through. So that's my first topic. I've got a feeling we might have touched on the actual topic itself less than than talking about video games for 10 minutes, but that's just the way the podcast goes sometimes. So hopefully you'll be able to stay a bit more on track. Chris, what's your first topic?
I won't get your hopes up, but we'll try. Obviously, we both live in the UK. What's your favourite aspect of living here?
As a quick joke answer, Iron Brew. As a sort of more meaningful answer,
Iron Brew.
A damp autumn day when the leaves are falling from the trees and you just get that first sense that winter's creeping in.
Well, on that topic, that actually flows quite nicely. Presumably you like walking around outside, when it is one of these crisp
I use my legs.
days. Yeah, and don't you just love the fact that there are no dangerous creatures? Because I feel like it's a really underrated aspect of living in Britain. Because case in point, an American man who in 4 years was bitten by a shark, attacked by a rattlesnake, and mauled by a bear.
Oh my.
Those are like 3 things you just never have to worry about walking around Britain.
Yeah, when I was a kid, a wasp flew into my ear and stung the inside of my ear, but that's pretty much it.
Well, that sounds painful.
It
Not
was
as painful as being mauled by a bear, but pretty painful.
I don't want to, put myself on the same levels, but it was my own personal bear attack, albeit that bear was a wasp. That is A, unfortunate, and B, did he go and seek out those animals just to claim that, what the animal attack version of the EGOT. Occasionally a swan will get a bit aggressive at a...
They can break your arm, according to mums everywhere.
And the Queen can order swans to break someone's arm, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of her powers.
Yep, she can eat swan and command them, like, she sends up a sort of swan bat signal. Or swan signal.
Yeah. It's bat swan! A swan with the powers of a bat, including flight.
Is it a bird? Is it a plane? It was the first one. It's a bird. But yeah, that's about it. And
yeah, we do have adders. I found out the other day. I was going for a walk and there were signs saying, there may be adders about. And then I went and had a look and I couldn't see any. I was quite disappointed.
That doesn't mean there are. They're just, health and safety. They're so cautious that they've got to warn for all possible.
We're so, don't think about this. So my parents went on holiday to California. Didn't invite me, but, never mind. And it was, they went for a walk in the forest near there, just the same way that you would... like the New Forest or wherever in England. Tell me afterwards, they were walking around and they saw these big paw prints in the mud. And their first thought was they just started discussing about what a massive dog that must be. Like somebody must be walking a massive dog. And then later on, they carry on walking for another few hours or whatever, and then they see a sign that says warning mountain lions in this area.
Fuck no.
And they're actually and there's a list of things to do. And apparently though, one of the things that was on the list was to don't turn your back on them and, make yourself seem as big as possible. But apparently the sign was about a foot off the ground. Some of the parents were kneeling down with their backs to any danger, reading some sign that said, stand tall and face the danger. I just really appreciate the lack of bears in this country. And snakes as well.
Is that your topic this week? There are no bears in England.
Oh yeah, well, the topic, the sort of segue was this guy who, at the ripe age of 20 years old, has been attacked by 3 deadly creatures.
I hadn't done any of that by 20.
No, and I'm glad.
Yeah, as am I. I guess we should be grateful that we don't notice stuff like that, because the fact that we don't notice it is because...
Our ancestors killed them all.
A quintessentially English animal is the badger, I think. Sort of meek, unassuming, looks cute, and in Harry Potter, the Hufflepuff house, their mascot is a badger. But a sort of,
Hufflepuff, the worst of the 4 supposedly equal houses.
Oh, if you're brave, you go in Gryffindor. Or if you're smart, you go in Ravenclaw. If you're cunning, you go in Slytherin. If you're kind...
if you just sort of exist and you don't have any defining features.
Yeah. If you're one of those guys that calls themselves a nice guy because they've got no discernible positive attributes, then mate, you're a Hufflepuff.
To be fair, the Sorting Hat really should just say, instead of Slytherin, it should just say, Azkaban. Because they'd really just save themselves a lot of hassle.
Let's I mean, we've already had one topic where we didn't actually talk about the main topic. We can't now spend the whole of this topic getting into Harry Potter lore. But I think Slytherins get a worse rap. Like, because
I'm not going to let this go off topic, but we are.
But I acknowledge that we are now just devolving topics. But
right, go on, Slytherin, go.
Because they
defend the indefensible.
From, the first book, they're set up as, classic baddies. Has something bad happened, it must be Slytherin. To be fair, there's, 4 or 5 just, dicks who happen to be in Slytherin because their families were also in Slytherin. Okay, those families were, the Death Eaters. But there must be, there's 200 kids per year, 50 of which go into Slytherin, who are probably just ambitious, but not outright evil. But the whole thing, it's just Gryffindor good, Slytherin bad, and it's just a binary that always I thought was unfair. Your move.
Justice for Slytherin.
I mean, it's fictional and for kids, so who cares?
Yeah. Before this gets too too heated, I was going to rather angrily point out, why would one of the 4 founders? Why would they join forces with the guy who hid the giant snake in the school? I mean, you'd be questioning his motives at that point.
He did like snakes. To call it, he was called Slytherin.
When they're designing the building, they'd be like, right, I just have one request. We just need one secretly accessible giant cavern. Just no questions asked. Everyone's just sort of yeah, sure.
Look, Hufflepuff's going, look, we need to make sure there are disabled toilets available on all floors and that the magical staircases leading up to them don't suddenly move halfway through. Okay, and Slytherin's going, can we have an extensive series of tunnels sort of wide enough to fit a giant, people-killing snake? That is an odd question to bring up in the drawing room meeting.
Yeah. Do you have a giant people-eating snake? No, just hypothetically. Just in case we ever needed to get something the same size as one. We'd want to be able to.
Yeah. Slytherin, have you been Googling, where to buy a basilisk? No! Well, I have, just out of curiosity. It's just that...
But who hasn't?
Yeah, BuzzFeed did a great article on why basilisks are going to be the hottest trend for 2015. Yeah, it's all sort of... stacking up. Also, you called Slytherin. Do you want to fuck a snake? Because you can talk to them, and you want a giant one, and your symbol's a snake. Have you got a thing for snakes, mate? I just like them.
Back on the topic of on snakes, pythons and anacondas and that lot are my least favourite animal, because if you were to do a Venn diagram of things big enough to swallow your whole and things small enough to sneak in your house through the toilet, those snakes are the only thing you'll find in there, which I find personally terrifying.
No, sumo wrestlers.
I've not found one in my toilet. Actually, I've not found an anaconda in my toilet either yet, so now I'm going to have to check for sumo wrestlers as well.
Just check under the lid. That's where they like to... Oh, no, not sumo, spiders. Sorry, I'm always getting those confused.
Oh.
Which is why I'm not allowed to legally go to Japan anymore.
After you tried to swat a sumo wrestler with a newspaper.
Yeah, trying to whip it with a towel.
What were we talking about? I have no idea.
We got into Harry Potter because... My point was going to be, in America they have honey badgers, not the cute, adorable ones. So I wonder if they were confused why the lovable Hufflepuffs got such a vicious animal as their house mascot. We got so derailed, it's barely worth bringing up again. Talking about spiders, I used to be really scared of them, sort of irrationally so, and I would genuinely sort of freak out if I ever saw one in the house, even though they're broadly fine. And the way I got over that is I just trained myself, if I just talk to them, it's a lot less intimidating, particularly if you call them mate. If you maybe get up in the middle of the night and you go to the bathroom and there's a spider on the wall, and instead of going, huh, fuck, the spider, you go, all right, mate, how's it going? Suddenly, it's a lot less intimidating.
Unless it speaks back, in which case it becomes 100% more terrifying.
Yeah, and it just says, I will feast on your organs, and you go, huh, classic spider. Anyway, no.
I don't mind spiders as long as they, as long as they stay in their space. Like, I stay in my space, they stay in their space, and, like, we give each other a heads up if we're gonna, like, break those boundaries. I don't mind them too much. It's when it's when you just sat watching TV or something and you turn around and there's a spider, like, literally right next to you, and you're like...
To be fair, he was probably just trying to get a good view of the telly.
Well, yeah, exactly. I really should have given them a heads up, like, what was going on.
He's saying, God, you've watched this episode of Friends 4 times. Can we not watch something new? Like, I don't know, World's Deadliest Spiders. My cousin's on this week.
The oldest spider in the world was like 40 years old or something. Like, died the other week. I don't know how they knew it was 40. Like, maybe they counted, like, maybe it's like trees, you count the rings or something.
Yeah, the problem is you got to, cut him in half first, and you go, oh,
yeah.
God, he was the oldest spider, but I've now cut him in half.
Yeah. Oh, God, it was almost at the record. It was 1 year away. 43 years old it was, using the magic of Google. We should do this more often. Research facts.
What live research? Boo, 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 boo. I can confirm.
Do you want to know what this female trapdoor spider was called? Bear in mind, it's been studied for it's 43 years old, and it was it's been studied by scientists since 1974.
Well, if the British people got a hand in voting for its name, probably Spidey McSpideyface.
No, even less personal than that. It was simply called Number 16.
Oh, yeah. But he got to retire and they gave it 8 gold watches.
Yeah, true. Then cut it in half and counted the rings. So I think we've meandered enough away from that topic. Please, Chris, could you give us your second and final topic, which we will then ignore after about 10 seconds.
Okay, so the topic I'd like to briefly mention and then, get sidetracked into, I don't know, talking about bees or whatever.
I knew you were going to say bees.
I'm nothing if not predictable. So no, my second topic is a really sort of hot take that I don't think anyone else has ever covered before, really. It's, one of those really refreshing comedy topics like aeroplane food or the differences between certain groups of people, but not in a racist way. And my observation is this: aren't kids on the phone a lot these days? Always using the phones to talk effortlessly with people across the world and learn things and sometimes order pizza and sometimes less reputable things.
You really are on the bleeding edge of modern observation, but carry on.
That's my hot take for 2018. You know that thing that literally everyone has in their pocket? Don't we use them a lot? There must be examples throughout history of a new technology coming along and old people getting mad about it. In the 1800s, people complained about the advent of the telephone, saying that it would ruin face-to-face conversation as they knew it. And even Alexander Graham Bell had his own workroom phone uninstalled because it was too much of a distraction.
I think people in the old time must just have actually secretly just hated everybody.
And the thing is, I know that eventually I will become that old man on the bus. There'll be some kid who gets on his hover bus. He'll get on his augmented reality headset and do whatever.
Watch porn.
and watch, eye-watering virtual porn. So I know that I will eventually become resistant to change, but it is at least consistent with the rest of history. Because when novels became popular in the 1700s, traditional media complained young people, particularly young women, spent too much time reading books. And now, obviously, these days, they complain that young people don't read enough books, or buy houses, or play golf, or whatever millennials are meant to be killing off next. And at the time, it was... reading was variously called reading rage, reading fever, reading mania, and reading lust. And you think, calm down, mate, it's just a book.
I don't know, some of those Jane Eyre things are saucy.
Yeah, there's always mention of bonnets. You think, okay, that's fair enough. People have always complained about, new technology and maybe not interacting with the surroundings. Well, Plato criticised the spread of written language, so we've always found something to complain about.
Like he was like a teacher or something, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was
getting really pissed off and was simultaneously propagating it.
But he said it was an impediment to wisdom, saying writing is only a semblance of truth. People will seem to know something when in fact they will know nothing. And if that doesn't sum up this podcast,
I was going to say we didn't need to write that down. If anything, the lack of writing stuff down is what's done us in.
Yeah, I mean, if you're at the point where you're criticising written language because, well, what's wrong with good old oral tradition? Frankly, you'll find anything to complain about.
Most of my colleagues are significantly older than myself, and they sort of conversations about technology are fairly regular, as in technology's gone too far. But the worst thing is I'm in engineering and my colleagues are engineers. So they've obviously displayed an interest in technology at some point. And then they've all just picked an arbitrary point in technology and decided humanity's progress up to this point was all really good. And everything after this point is a waste of time. We've got stuff like, well, one guy was complaining about cars, like, because he likes to cycle. But he was complaining about how the advent of cars ruined cycling because that's when they didn't have to have traffic lights until cars existed. And it's just a really weird rant for somebody who was born at least a century after the invention of the car. And then another one was well, he always just complains about phones in general. Just smartphones are just not worth it. Stuff will never catch on, even though they blatantly have, and have for like several years. But he doesn't believe in it, doesn't like it, doesn't trust anything that's... No, he does have to trust things that are computerized, because we literally couldn't do our jobs without computers. But any program designed after, like, 1997 is the devil's work. Why does it need to be easy to use? In my day, we did everything with a slide rule. This is all like enough. We don't need to take it any further and make it any easier. It's just so arbitrary, like where they've decided technology. Like literally, they would not have jobs if it wasn't for the advent and like march of technology, or to get to a certain point. And then everything past then is apparently frivolous and pointless and will never catch on.
I worry that I'm going to get to 35, and then everything that happens after that will confuse and annoy me.
Yes.
But now I'm trying to stay open-minded. It doesn't even have to be technology. Like, I personally think that this trend of paying more for jeans with the knees ripped out is silly, and your knees will get cold in a country that is cold for most of the year. However,
my girlfriend was wearing some of those once when we went to visit my gran. And she offered to stitch them up. She was like, have you ripped your jeans? I'll stitch them for you if you need. She's actually really nice.
Oh, that's nice. You know, as we age, things overtake us and leave us behind or just move in different directions. You know, I don't get fidget spinners, but that's broadly fine.
I don't think anybody gets fidget spinners anymore. Seem to really, literally, I remember just going around random, all shops. You go around walk past shops that had nothing to do with any sort of business or selling, well, essentially, are toys.
What is
and
it? It's like a funeral home.
Well, maybe not a funeral home, but literally, there'd be like takeaways and stuff, and they would have a sign on the window saying, "We sell fidget spinners." It's just be like, why? Why do you sell fidget spinners? How in any way does this improve your business model?
Can I get a fish, large chips, curry sauce, and yeah, can I get one of them fidget spinners? Do you want salt and vinegar on the fidget spinner? No, on the chips, dickhead. All right.
And you betrayed your northern roots then when you were like curry sauce.
What, instead of gravy?
No, as in if anybody was in any doubt as to which part of the country you came from. That right there, that's like one of those, was it shibboleths, where, the secret test of where you're from. It's like, you enter a chippy. What do you order with your chips? Do you order mushy peas, gravy, or curry? And if you say any of them, they go, "Ha ha!" The correct answer is none. Assume if you're being tricked by a southerner, that is.
Wait, southerners don't have any of them. I've never lived in the south.
They might have mushy peas. As a general rule, they don't go for gravy or curry sauce.
What? So they just have really dry fish. What sauce do they put on it then?
Vinegar.
Fuck the rest of this episode. This is what I'm interested in. What are southerners putting on the fish and chips?
Salt and vinegar. That's about it, really. Maybe mushy peas.
Oh, it still seems dry. You want the viscosity of a nice gravy.
One thing that I do like about, now that I live on the south coast, which in general is massively overrated. Everyone says it's grim up north. It's genuinely just as grim down south.
Oh yeah, I love in a tiny island that you can drive over in 2 hours. The superiority that isn't it nice down south? It's it's a degree nicer at best.
Yeah,
there are states in America that wouldn't even consider a short journey to drive across the UK because their next town over is 8 hours drive away.
Yes.
And the ridiculous rivalry that we've got between two towns
Yeah.
that you can walk between. It's insane.
No, but one of the nice things about the chippies is that they do give you a choice of fish. You know, like you can actually walk in and be like, haddock, cod, plaice, other ones that I can't remember.
Breen.
Whereas in Manchester, my old local chippy, it is an amazing chippy, but it did cod or cod. But the thing you did have a choice was you could either get a Hollands pie or a green elf pie. Like, they gave you a choice there. Not different flavours. There was still meat and potato, but you got to choose your brand.
Well, yeah, it's like City United. Everyone's got a team, and you're either Hollands or Green Elches.
Yeah, just look like you just have an obscene amount of brand loyalty. You're like, I want a meat and potato pie, but I cannot stand to get one from the brand, which I don't like.
Speaking of like the chip shop as a litmus test, I'm constantly fascinated by the divergence of names we have for like a small circular thing of bread.
Oh yeah.
With which to put, like a burger bun, but it's not. So
No.
so to some it's a barm, it's a barm cake, or a muffin, or an oven bottom muffin, or a roll, or a bat.
I got into a really heated debate actually with some southerners at work, because the chippy near our school called it a chip muffin, or everywhere else called it like a chip barm.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what they were calling it. And I got into a debate about that, and then one of them was like, so basically it's just a chip sandwich. And I was like, no.
No.
That is wrong. Like, well, what's the difference? And I was like, a sandwich is two separate pieces of bread which you bring together with a filling, whereas a barm is one piece of bread which you tear apart and then put the filling in. They would not accept that explanation.
And the other thing I've found is if you're not from the UK and you want to understand us as a people, you need to know that we'll never express our emotions to the people we love, and we will die with them, buried deep within us. But if you get two people and one of them thinks it's pronounced scone and the other pronounced scone, then they will fight about that for their entire lives.
Oh yeah. Where do you fall on the scone debate?
Scone, obviously.
Oh, I go with scone. We're gonna fight over this, but it logically makes sense. It's a stone, it's a phone, it's a bone, it's a scone.
If we're going that argument, how would you pronounce a word that's spelled Gone?
Gone.
You're a liar. You're a damn liar.
Well, yeah, I'm just going to the shops
For a scone.
Actually, no, because the only good thing about pronouncing it your way is you can say, what's the fastest cake in the world? It's gone. Oh, I hate myself.
So, before this friendship comes crashing down over the pronunciation of a average to decent afternoon tea snack, we should probably get to your final topic. Please inform us what it is.
Well, yeah, so I'm going to go for something a lot less controversial and talk about religion.
Oh, good. Phew.
Yeah, so how to solve the crisis between the Abrahamic faiths.
Oh, God.
I'm joking.
Are you sure?
But I am going to talk about religion.
Okay.
In the news recently, an American televangelist, which I understand means an evangelist who uses the telly, but I may be wrong, has asked his followers to pay for him to buy a $54 million private jet.
Yeah, I read this, and if I'm not mistaken, it'd be his fourth.
Yes, I think that's correct. But you see, there's a problem with the previous three, in that they don't have enough fuel efficiency. And apparently God himself apparently God himself has nothing to do with climate change or fuel efficiency. He literally just wants this guy to save a few quid on petrol.
It's interesting that God, since releasing his sort of first two novels, critically acclaimed novels though they were, has sort of been a bit quiet on specifics, of the various, horrors that have befell his favourite children. It's just interesting that he decides he's woken up from quite a deep snooze and gone, oh God, I've got so many voicemails. I need to weigh in on the most important issue. Is it to stop, war, famine, pestilence? No, one of my TV-based spokespeople needs a fourth private jet that's a bit cheaper on its upkeep.
Yes. But the best thing is, apparently God said to Mr. Duplantis in his dream, he said, I want you to believe in me for a Falcon 7X. He was very specific. It can't just be any private jet. It was very specifically a Falcon 7X. And obviously, Mr. Duplantis, millionaire, wondered how he could ever possibly pay for a private jet again. And apparently God himself said, I didn't ask you to pay for it, I asked you to believe for it. Yeah, so apparently that's what God wants. He wants a load of people with a lot less money to give somebody with more money, even more money, so that he can buy a private jet. And a quote from the lovely Reverend, if Jesus was on earth today, he wouldn't be riding a donkey. Because, as we all know, in the early 1st century AD, the greatest way you could travel around was a donkey. You had literally no other choices back then. You couldn't be carried by slaves in a sedan or, ride a majestic steed. He rode a donkey, and that's the ancient equivalent of a private jet.
If Jesus was alive today, he'd just ride a donkey that could fly, that was made out of metal, with spacious armrests and perhaps an onboard sushi chef. It's
simple logic. I know we try not to get too into religion, and as far as I'm aware, you're not religious, I'm definitely not religious, but, I can see some of the morality, of Jesus was all give to the poor, and,
welcome to Vague Theology with Chris and Chris.
Yeah. But it's like, there are some nice ideas behind some of it.
Yeah, it's a
and
good
then some
framework.
of it gets, I don't know how it gets so completely corrupted into buy me a private jet. And why anybody sort of goes along with it and goes, yeah, well, I can fully see why this guy needs a private jet.
So you're probably not remembering the parable of Jesus and the private jet, in which I think it's Matthew recounts after Jesus threw out the moneylenders for their greed and avarice, turned to the camera, broke the fourth wall and winked and said, suckers, got them. Took all the...
Took all the gold.
Yeah, invested it and bought a private jet. And that's how he flew to America to fit in with the Mormon, timeline.
Oh yeah, it all makes sense now.
So that is actually canon. It's no longer just an expanded Mormon universe.
The Bible too.
This time it's Biblia. Yeah, I mean it's obviously just shallow, greedy, and the most un-Christian in the traditional sense of the word thing that anyone's ever said, especially a minister.
But it's the fact that it works, because it's clearly already worked 3 times for him. He's just like, yeah, might as well go again. These people are clearly massively misunderstanding the things they claim to believe in.
From my obviously limited understanding of it, I think it works on a basis of what they call seed faith, in that they invite people to sow their sort of karmic seed, which sounds ruder than it is.
Excuse me.
I mean, they send them money and thereby plant good intentions, which they will then harvest in return tenfold. The downside is that they're advertising to the most vulnerable people in society who are more likely to take a chance on bullshit like this. I try to phrase it in an elegant way, but it's not. It's just perverse bullshit, taking money. It's literally everything Jesus stood against. It's taking money from the poor to buy a private jet for the rich. And because in America then churches don't pay tax, then they can, ministers can have these massive mansions tax-free, as long as they declare them as sort of religious households or vicarages or whatever. That's just all part of it, that if they need a giant personal runway for their 4 private planes. Also, he seems to have, as for someone who has embraced the telly part of his job title and understands that someone could point a camera at him and his face could be broadcast to places that he is not. He seems awfully keen to travel to other places when a simple webcam would suffice. He's literally made a living out of appearing on TVs in places that he is not, and he needs 4 different expensive ways of getting to places he has no intention of going to spread a message. I'm getting angry.
No, but I was thinking, that's if this podcast ever works out, then the next stage will be to start doing personalized individual podcasts in people's living rooms, one at a time.
Whether they want it or not. In balaclavas. Don't applaud, cry more.
I don't think that our issue will ever be that we're getting too much applause.
Or that we need
You're
a fourth
very
private
optimistic.
jet.
Yeah, no, we'll get one private jet first, and then
Each, obviously.
each.
Because,
Yeah, there's two of us. Silly. Maybe we should start our own religion. I'm quite egotistical.
And I can write a parable or two.
There we go.
And, Chris isn't too far of a name from Christ. And my middle name
I think
will
that
start
was
with
taken.
a T. Can I be Chris T? Which is like if Jesus was a rapper.
You just need to think of like a good origin story, and then boom, pick a random place. It's like just like throw stuff in the dartboard. Just pick like a random place, pick a random date, like number of days, and then just be like, the world was created in Czechoslovakia in 312 days.
Are you saying that religion is like ad-libs? It's like, our holy place is insert geographical location now. The, sinful part of the body is insert part of the body, not like that.
Excuse me.
I mean, I've certainly spent time in the wilderness, or at least I've visited Middlesbrough, so that was my own personal
Having
cross
insulted
there.
all the religious people in the world, you've now taken on Middlesbrough as well.
Look, you start your fights with three major Abrahamic religions. I have got my own personal, severely undercooked beef with middling English towns.
Teesside.
That is my road to Damascus, but Damascus is Middlesbrough. Actually, no, Middlesbrough
there we
is
go.
both
Middlesbrough
my
is
Sodom and my Gomorrah. I don't think that I have the poker face required to start my own religion, because I could not. I get 10 minutes in before cracking up and going, this is all bollocks. You've really got to commit with a sort of ironclad belief.
Like Scientology.
Yeah, like, rightly or wrongly, they really believe in what they're doing.
No, like we've already said, we do understand.
Yeah, like,
Pull
I appreciate
and the jaw
that,
and like, yeah.
that a faith is like a framework around which a lot of people build their lives, and
Exactly, and like
the
there's
religion
no point
offers a lot
trying
of community.
Yeah, exactly. There's no point trying to take that away from people.
Yeah,
But at the same time,
it is
there's
silly
a lot
though.
of what. I was going to say, especially though when you look at ones that have been more obviously cooked up in recent times, like Scientology.
Yeah,
it's
if
hard,
your founder
it's
is
hard to
a
not
science-fiction writer.
Yeah, it's hard to not extrapolate that backwards and start thinking, maybe the other ones started somewhat similarly.
Yeah, if you take it as, if it's a bunch of guidelines with which to live a better life and to treat your fellow people in a better way, then that's great. If it starts being the basis just to make shit up or exploit people or discriminate against people or,
Generally being a dick.
generally being a dick, then come on. What are you playing at?
Don't be a dick. Should be the one commandment.
You're right, we did solve all the world's religious tensions.
Yeah, just don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
This guy believes that Jesus was the son of God. This guy believes that Muhammad was God's true prophet. Just don't be a dick to each other and it'll be fine. You just feel like you believe that, you don't believe any of it. Just don't be dicks.
But if
Move
you
on.
call scones,
yeah, then that's
go
worth a
fuck
fight.
yourself.
Yeah.
That will be the issue with which our religion splinters off into various factions.
Yes. So in hindsight, we shouldn't base a religion entirely on afternoon tea. So I think that's a good place to end it. To end it all. Now that we've managed to alienate many people, and of course that is not what we're here to do. We believe in disagreeing on all things, apart from whether or not it's pronounced scone or scone, of which there can only be one winner.
Let's not get into this again.
No, my blood is boiling at the prospect of hearing you say it wrong. So I feel like on that note, it's time to say goodbye. So thank you for listening, and we hope you join us next time on Cooking with Grief. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye again.
It's gone. Thank you for listening to this episode of Cooking with Grief. If you enjoyed it, make sure to recommend it to a friend. And if you hated it, then please recommend it to your worst enemy. If you'd like to get in touch, you can email us cookingwithgrief@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter. That's @cookingwithgrief, but no G on cooking, because we're cool. It'd be great if you subscribe to our channel, that way you'll never miss a new episode. And we'd love to get your feedback, so please leave a comment below telling us all about the things we got wrong. Thank you, Internet. We welcome your indifference and or vitriol.